Hi, this is Al. About a year ago, we started thinking about the COVID-19, how data is being shared, how it is being used by different actors, by government, by private sector, by civil society organizations, especially in the fight for the pandemic. Of course, what governments had to do is that they had to address themselves to the pandemic very aggressively, and therefore they needed to put a hold on some of our rights. The right to assembly, for example, was curtailed. Our right to move to different places was curtailed as governments put down curfews, as government closed down pubs and so on. One of the other rights that is important is that our right to privacy has been challenged a little bit. How? Governments started to do things like contact tracing so that they can be able to find other people who are infected, who are in an infected person's circle. They started sharing personal data, sensitive personal data, with people like the police force and with other people who could thereafter use it for any purposes that they may choose. I remember, especially around the beginning of the pandemic, people were really afraid of going to quarantine centers, so they would run away and the police would need to be engaged to go and find them. But for that, they would need to be given their phone numbers, they would need to be given their personal details, their home addresses, and so on. In some countries in Africa, we started to see the police and other agencies using that data for purposes other than the health of the person. We saw situations where in other countries, protesters were tracked using the same contact tracing mechanism, facial recognition, that sort of thing. All of these things are happening, and they have to happen if we are to beat the pandemic. But then the question we started asking ourselves is this: how do we know it is time for us to get our rights back? How do we know it is time for the government to stop doing contact tracing? Is it when everybody has been vaccinated? Is it when the number of infected persons has gone below 1%? So we started having this conversation with multiple organizations, and we now have a full program around this. We're trying to work with different organizations around the continent to sort of bring them together and to build a model for advocacy that enables them to talk to their governments so that policies are created that wind down post-COVID, so that we have legislation that is put in place for data protection. In many countries that does not exist. So that wherever data protection legislation exists, then it is operationalized with regulations, with the right offices with the right capacity, so that they can be able to protect the rights of the citizen. As part of that, we've been working with Immaculate Kasait, who is the new Data Protection Commissioner in Kenya. And she's wonderful, and we've been sort of working with her to figure out what kind of capacity does she need for her to have the independence, for her to have the strength that she needs to protect the citizens, because that's going to be a major part of her work. And she's come in the middle of the budget cycle, so she's having to be supported in different ways. But she has the will, and she's got her heart is in the right place. So we want to capitalize on that as an institution and provide whatever support we can to her office. Among the other things that we've been doing is that we've been working together with Amnesty International to try and bring two data communities together. On the one hand, we've got the data community of which we are mostly a member, which is the Data for Development community. And on the other side, represented by Amnesty International, is this whole new data community of people who think about human rights and data, who think about how we should first have all of the structures put in place for data protection before we start doing data for development. The people on our side of the table are thinking, well, but we need development now, so let's figure out how we can get data, and as we're doing that, let's build into it the necessary safeguards and mechanisms that are useful. How do we get these two communities to start talking to each other? how do we find a compromise position? So the partnership between Amnesty and us is exactly to sort of drive that, and we're really excited that it's been going really well. Ultimately, what this video is about is to ask you, how do you want to participate in the Restore Data Rights movement? There's just one way that I'd like to ask you to do so. Please go to restoredatarights.africa. There's a declaration that is on there. Please sign that declaration and endorse it, because that is the bedrock of all of the activities that we're doing. That is the one that basically is a set of principles that gets all of us agreeing on how we can go and talk to governments around Africa, so that we can be able to build the ecosystem and the platform that is necessary for this work. We look forward to hearing from you about the ways that you can work with us. Our website is www.openinstitute.africa. Our email address is now hello@openinstitute.africa. Reach out to us anytime and we shall figure out how we can accommodate you. And thank you.